Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Non Sequitur Nerds. Tonight, we're going to need you to charge your photons and make sure you feed your mag, otherwise, it'll keep complaining. We're going to be talking Phantasy Star tonight if you haven't picked it up already. As always, I am Tim, joined by my buddy Ian. How's it going, bud?
Hey man, going pretty good. It's nice capstone to a week at this point.
Thank God it's done. This has been a rough week for me.
Yeah, it's been a rough week for me as well. You know me, I'm IT. This week was our planning week,
Mm.
and it's just like marathon meetings for
Oh,
me, and it's
God.
just like, yeah, like I'm like my brain is mush,
Did,
and just I can't even.
and for me, it was like, it's for us, I don't know how it was for you, but like up in this area, we're finally starting to get summer like temperatures. Which, for those of you that don't know, I work in an RV factory as my day job. And those aren't really known for having great air conditioning systems in them. So I've been trapped in a metal, humid box for 10 hours a day. Yeah, it has not been fun. Today was pretty brutal. Everybody was feeling it. But hey,
Yeah.
it's Friday. It's the weekend now. We got the whole weekend ahead of us. But what do we not have to look forward to this weekend, Ian?
Oh, Fantasy Star New Genesis.
So, those of you that follow our social medias saw that Ian and I played it, and we played quite a bit of it. That's pretty much all we did last weekend. And
Yeah,
we're
we cleared our schedules. We got rid of the children. We locked spouses if we had them in closets with enough food and water to last for 48 hours. And it was a marathon good time.
oh yeah, oh yeah.
Um, yeah, so Tim and I were lucky enough to get into the closed beta of the New Genesis, Fantasy Star New Genesis, which is the pseudo sequel upgrade to Phantasy Star Online 2,
hmm
Sega's hit MMO, very Japanese
Oh,
MMO.
oh yeah.
Uh,
Well, did you see? I sent you a video earlier today of that live concert at Arcs Fest back in, I think it was like 2018. Did you watch that?
I didn't get a chance to watch all of it because I was heading out the door at the time.
Oh,
So
gotcha. I mean, obviously, like Fantasy Star is huge in Japan. The video I'm alluding to is one of their fan festivals, and like they have an arena-sized crowd of people there just for like a live concert. They did one of the in-game. They have concerts that you can just walk up to and listen to music. They actually performed some of those concert songs live, which is really cool. Uh, the gentleman, and his name escapes me, but one of the dance festivals is called the Arcs Dance Festival, and one of the songs is "We're Arcs." The gentleman that does the Japanese vocals for it, they actually had him. He's fully fluent in English. They had him actually do the English song as well, just to kind of keep a little bit of consistency. And
there you go.
I mean, seeing that performed live was so awesome. But anyway, we digress. The game is very Japanese inspired. Um, but Ian and I love it. We, like he said, we were lucky enough to get into the closed beta for New Genesis. And those of you watching our YouTube stream can actually see behind us some of the screenshots we took. Um, the game is pretty. It is very pretty.
Yes, it's very pretty. So, talking about Fantasy Star New Genesis, I think maybe we should give a little bit of a preamble
Yeah.
to things to folks. So, Fantasy Star, like we said, is a Japanese MMO that's been out for years in Japan. Really,
Yeah.
10 years now, I think.
Pretty close to 10, I think, because I think it was
Yeah,
eight or 9 years that it had been out in Japan when well, Global got it last year. Ironically, right as the pandemic was starting and a lot of people were home. So I'm like,
hmm
hey, Fantasy Star, I played it back in the Dreamcast days, absolutely loved it. I've always been a fan. And I'm like, hey, here's something for me to play while I'm stuck at home. And that's all I did during lockdown was play Fantasy Star.
See, while you were unfortunately furloughed during that time period,
Yeah.
I work in IT, so I still was able to work and whatnot. So unfortunately, I didn't have the time to be able to do it. I mean, fortunate that I had a job. But
Yeah.
anyway, so New Genesis is coming out here within the next month.
hmm
Depending on when you're watching this, it might already be out.
Yeah.
Um,
If it is, go play it right now.
exactly.
It's free.
So yes, and that's the beauty of the thing is that it's free.
hmm
There's no pay for premium in either version of the game, New Genesis or the OG PSO2. Um, they get all of their money off of like loot boxes.
Right.
And I wouldn't even. I mean, yeah, I'd call them loot boxes. Like
Right.
it's cosmetics and dances and emotes and eyebrows and
All kinds of
all
crazy outfits.
yeah,
Yeah.
all that kind of crazy outfits and stuff. So, PSO2 New Genesis, new game coming out. We got to play the beta. As Tim said, it is a very pretty game.
Yes.
Like even the loading screen is hypnotic.
Yeah,
In
it
a,
really
in a
is.
way. And you can shoot lasers in it.
Right. Well, and I found out you can do that in the base game too, but it just doesn't look as cool.
So the game is set. I don't know what planet it's called, but anyway, PSO2, you're on a ship and you travel to these different, procedurally generated locations and things like that. New Genesis is completely different in that you're in a central city, a central hub, and it's open world. Like you just walk out the door and go do stuff.
Do what you want. Explore, fight stuff, travel to new areas. The closed beta was limited in where you could go, but I mean it is a beta. They don't want to spoil everything yet. But even what we could explore was pretty big. I mean, we were still finding stuff like up until the last day of the beta.
I mean, we were still finding stuff up until like the last few minutes of the beta. Like we were just like randomly going around. And if you look at some of the cycling screenshots, folks, you can see like some of the places that Tim and I explored off into. I climbed a mountain and just like stood there and took screenshots.
Yeah. And the view is amazing up there, by the way. I know which mountain you got to. I ended up being able to get up there.
Yes. And again, it's like free form, so lots of travel, lot of options. I'm very interested in obviously I'm interested in the release next month. Just so that I can see like some of these new locations and things like that. And it actually kind of makes me wonder if maybe some of the original locations weren't specifically built that way for the beta. Because that has happened before with game companies, that they will specifically build something only for the beta, and then it doesn't exist once the game goes GA.
Right.
Or at least it's been reconfigured so that it's a new experience for the beta testers.
Right. Which, I mean, that'd be kind of interesting, but, I mean, kind of going off of that, since it is an open world, there are these kind of invisible walls that when you get close to a different area, it kind of is semi-transparent to let you know that you are going into a new area. The areas that were effectively roped off, it became a transparent red thing with, like, big warning signs on it to let you know you can't go here, but you could still see through it. There was one area that I know a lot of people are really interested in, and you and I saw it. It looks like another like central hub town, but it looks decimated. Like it looks like there was some kind of battle there. A lot of people are really wondering, was that another town? Was that another settlement? What is it? And Sega, I mean, they're doing a really good job of keeping the story and everything under wraps. I mean, they've got players like salivating over what is this? What is any of this? So I mean, I'm definitely looking forward to the full release as well, just to see, what's in this new world and know more of the story about it.
Right.
Because the beta, they even kept the story, like, you pretty much in the beta got effectively the tutorial. You were given missions, but the missions were all designed to kind of teach you different aspects of the game, like how combat works, how the new movement mechanics work, which are amazing, by the way. How to augment weapons, how to enhance them, and they were all quests that gave you effectively like, go do this thing and you'll learn how to do this, which was really nice, because the base game didn't really do it as well. So, but that's all the story we got in the beta was you got the tutorial, and then it cuts off. It doesn't give you any of the story, which is really nice, because it didn't spoil that initial what's that.
Yeah, and the other thing is that when you first log into the game and create a character or whatnot, it gives you a little bit of information, like text. It'll give you some text information.
Yeah. Yep.
Which
like
I think,
the
if I
opening
remember
cinematic.
Well, no, it's in addition to that. So after you get past the opening cinematic, it'll give you like like some not really Star Wars, but like it'll pop up text and whatnot. If I remember correctly, you were actually like distracted by something.
Well,
because we were both loading it in at the same time, and Tim was like looking off, like doing something, and I'm reading through all this text, and he comes back and like, like they didn't tell you anything. I'm like, well, they
It's
did. You just didn't see it.
I remember that was we did a live stream of it, and for some reason, like when we started live streaming, I could hear Ian, and he was showing up on our stream. But then I went to adjust the volume of the game because it was super loud, like I couldn't hear what Ian was saying. And for some
Yeah,
reason,
fair warning, people. When you get the game and load it up,
it's going to be loud.
Have your volume volume either off or turned way down.
Yeah, if they don't fix that, you will go deaf.
Yes, your ears will bleed.
But for some reason, when I was trying to fix that, it muted you both on the live stream and on my end. So I'm sitting there talking to you, and I'm like, wow, he's being a jerk, or he's really focused. And then I realized, oh, nobody can hear Ian. And then I got it fixed to where I could hear you, but you still weren't showing up on the live stream for the first, like, 10 minutes. So we got it fixed. Well, we ended up playing for, what, like 3-4 hours? So we ended up getting it fixed. But that's what it was, is I was looking on my other monitor trying to figure out why I couldn't hear you. But,
yeah.
That aside, well, let's start at the beginning with the character creator. Very in-depth compared to the base game. A lot of the menus and options are laid out to where if you have played PSO2, you are very easily able to get in and customize your character, but there's a lot more. I don't want to say there are more options, but I think it's a lot more versatile. You've got a lot more control over making your character look unique. For those of you any of you that are listening to us that play PSO, if you happen to go on ship 1, you may have ran into me. Hi, this is Ulrich. In the base game, like the body type I picked for Ulrich, like I run into people all the time that are built almost identical to him. In New Genesis, I didn't see anybody that was like, there were people that were similar, but not identical, which is really nice because you can really make your character stand out. Like even your character, like you stood out. Like I could spot you in a crowd without seeing your name if I saw you. You know.
Well, I mean, I could spot you in a crowd too because you're 2 feet taller than the crowd.
Well, yeah. I mean, Ulrich's a big guy.
Yes. So no, the character creation was really cool. I don't know that I thought there were more options, but I definitely agree on the versatility. I actually felt like there were less options.
Okay.
But you had more control inside of those options.
Yeah.
Maybe they consolidated some options, and so you actually had more dexterous control in that. Which, speaking of dexterity, the fingers move in this game, guys.
that's one of their big selling points. Well, it's so cool because like you'll see if you look at some of the screenshots back there. There's a shot that Ian and I had taken, a couple of them, on the very last day of the beta. You know, hours before it was closing. We're both pointing, and like the point one, if you click your mouse, your character will go. And for those of you not watching the video, I'm pointing forward and then pointing at myself. Yeah, it's nice not having your character stuck with partially curved hands all the time. So I mean, graphically, yeah. I mean, we keep getting back to how pretty the game is. But one of the big upgrades to the character creator is in base PSO, your character can equip 4 total accessories. And you've got some options on like how big or small they are, and like if it's something that attaches to your head, you can adjust it in your head area. New Genesis, at least in the beta, you could equip up to 12 accessories, and you could, even if it's a crown, you could put the crown on your kneecap if you wanted to. You can literally have it anchored to any body part, and it goes like, and it's not just like right shoulder, left shoulder. It's right shoulder, right upper arm, right elbow, right forearm high, right forearm low, right wrist, right hand.
There are 12 pages of anchor points, if I remember correctly.
There's a lot. So I mean, you can really do a lot. Like in the beta, something that made Ian and I laugh. There was no facial hair, and Ulrich has a beard. I found a way using an accessory that I think mounts to your head. They're like a set of 2 antennas. I had, using the accessory options, had moved them down so it looked like he had angry eyebrows and like a snidely whiplash mustache. To which Ian and I, like, this is at like, 1 in the morning?
Probably.
And, you know, it was stupid o'clock. And we're sitting there giggling for 20 minutes over this stupid, which you can see in some of the screenshots. This just,
yes.
But the fact that I took a set of antennas and was able to make a passable mustache out of, you've got options. I mean, a lot of them. Like
Yeah, the only issues with your antenna stash was that it shows that Ulrich dyes his hair because the mustache is like brown, like brunette or black, and
and
he's blonde.
exactly. But I'm really excited for when people can transfer their characters from the base game over to New Genesis. Your clothing and stuff and your accessories will all come over with you. I'm really excited to see some of the stuff that people can put together once they have their full catalog of clothing. That's going to be
Oh
really
yeah.
unique. The only complaint that I have in regards to clothing is if you do put on an outfit that is not a New Genesis outfit, it will revert you to the classic body styles, which will throw off your proportions a little bit. But kind of a counterpoint to that is there are no genders in New Genesis. So Ian, as an example, his character, in some of the later screenshots, he found a trench coat that he really liked, which looked really good on his character. Technically, it gave him the quote-unquote male body type, but just using the Salon character creator, he was able to tweak it up so that you couldn't tell that it was a more masculine type. Like, so I mean, there's options.
Yeah, yeah. The character creation is definitely in depth. I'm interested to see how, how my character Asriel looks once I can import her over, and just get to experience that. So,
Oh, yeah.
but moving on from the character creation, we talked about the world, we talked about the character creation. The mechanics of the game are really fresh and new.
Yeah.
If we want to start with like the movement mechanics. So one of the things in
yes.
one of the things in OG PSO2 is that like you can dash
Yes,
kind
like
of like
some of the classes have some abilities that let you dash, and like you can do your dodges, which I mean vary from class to class and how they work, but there's no dedicated dashing.
yeah, I mean I would call it sprinting or running really.
Yeah,
So like
yeah.
your character walks, your character kind of jogs in PSO2, and then you have like dashes. But in
Right.
New Genesis you have an actual dedicated run. So you can trigger this with, double tapping a directional button. Um, and then you kind of like basically take off like a bolt of lightning
Yeah.
with, Tron-esque photon trails coming behind you. And it looks really kind of cool.
It does.
So movement is much more fluid in this
Yes.
game because you have much better range of motion. You have better start and stop. And Tim and I joked because after the beta we logged back into OG PSO2 and then like both of us just kept like trying to double tap the directional button to run.
And
so
we
like
were
our
sad.
characters would our characters start moving and we'd stop it. Like damn it.
Oh, I can't dash. Well, and on top of the dash, there's also the Photon Glide, I think they're calling it, where if you double jump, your character will literally, using photon energy, will glide. And
Yep.
that the aforementioned mountain that Ian and I were talking about earlier, you can glide off of that. There's no like Breath of the Wild style like meter or anything. You glide until you either tap again to drop, which no falling damage by the way, or until you just glide and finally hit the ground. So like that mountain, I was at the top of it, and I'm like, I'm gonna see if I can make it to the city. Well, long story short, had I not tapped the button again to drop, I would have actually completely overshot the city and gone to the other side of the map. So I mean, it's you can go a ways.
Yep. And the mountain that we're talking about, if you watch the screenshots cycling through, there's a shot of Az with a couple of twin peaks behind her.
Yep.
The taller peak is the mountain that we were referring to. And you can glide down from that mountain, and in fact, you can actually glide down from that mountain and try to land on the central tower, but it actually just kicks you off if you
Yep.
you kind of like ragdoll off of it almost. But yeah, so the glide mechanic is really cool because that helps with your range of motion again, range of movement. Because the original PSO2 is very limited to, I'd say, really a two-dimensional space.
I mean, yeah, for the most part, those of you that haven't played the original PSO2, the way the maps are, is they are very linear. I mean, yes, there are like paths that shoot off of it, but there's one entrance,
only one exit. Yeah.
So it's you don't really need any kind of advanced movement. I mean, you can jump, you can double jump, but in New Genesis, the world I think was built around this new movement mechanic because it does very much cater to like, all right, I need to get across this ravine. Okay, well I'll go up to a slightly higher point and glide across, or you can take the long way and dash around and get to it. Climbing mountains and whatnot, using the between the dash and the photon glide, and wall kicking. We can't forget the wall kicking. Yep.
Yep.
So you can
Wall
Mario
kicking,
style wall kick.
Yeah, you can only do it once per jump.
Yep.
So you can jump, kick off the wall, and jump again.
Yep.
Or double jump, kick off the wall.
Yep.
But you can only do it once per like jump cycle.
Yeah.
So you can't do like Super Metroid style wall jumping where you're bouncing between the walls.
Yep.
Or I think Sonic the Hedgehog did that too.
Yeah, I think so in one of the games.
Yeah. So that basically allows you, the combination of all of those things allows you, and I did this quite a lot. I became actually pretty good at it, to become a Oblivion-esque horse.
Yep.
In that I could climb a mountain on basically a vertical face.
Yeah.
So like literally just bouncing up the mountain.
I did not get as good as that, so I would watch Ian boing, 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 and I jump up, hit the wall, and fall. So I got really good at the dashing, though, because I would have to catch up to him. But, yeah, so the movement system is really good, and like Ian said, I logged in to the base game yesterday, and I was still trying to dash. So...
Yeah, so movement mechanics, like we said, are really fluid, really nice. They play in well to the game.
Which very helpful during combat, too.
Yes, which actually was going to be my next lead-in. It was the combat of the game. One of the I'll just say one of the criticisms I had of the game is that the at least the beta was very limited in the amount of buttons that you could click, like the amount of abilities that you had. I think we had 5 per class.
Yep. Well, I mean, the skill tree was very shortened as well. I do honestly believe that was just the beta, just kind of letting you dip your toes into it. Because if that's the entire skill tree and that's your entire attack set, that is going to be pretty limited. But I mean, if they do make that at launch, that's probably just an at launch thing, and they'll expand on it. But anyway, go ahead.
Right. So, New Genesis featured 6 classes, I believe.
Yes.
Six or 8.
I think it was 6.
It was 6.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, 6 because it was 2 from each fighting style. So. You had the hunter and you had the fighter.
Yep.
You had the gunner and the ranger.
Yep.
And then the detector and the force.
Yep. Yeah.
So it was 2 from each fighting style. Each one has their own fighting style, weapons, things like that, and so on and so forth.
There is quite a bit of variety. Like even against like hunter and fighter, they play completely differently.
Yep. Hunter focuses on big ass swords.
Mm-hmm.
Fighter focus is a brawler. Like it focuses on punching.
You literally run up and punch things.
Yes, exactly. So the different, and then each fighting style has their own like unique, like skill, unique ability type thing. Like, the hunter can guard. Like they hold the sword up and guard damage. Yep. I don't remember what the fighter does. What does the fighter do? Is it like dash or something?
It's a like a boxer style dodging thing, but you can also
like a bob and weave.
Yeah, which you can attack cancel with. So if you're in the middle of a combo and like you're in the middle of an animation and you need to do something else, you can use the dodge to attack cancel and then chain it into something else, which is really nice. I mean, you could do that in the base game, but I think it's much better done in New Genesis. You can definitely tell that they refined it. And on top of their weapon ability, they do also have their own unique photon art, each class as well, which you mainly did Gunner, right? Or was it Ranger?
Yeah.
Yep.
No, I did mainly Gunner.
Yep. Which your photon art was the orbital laser thing, right?
No. The Gunner photon art was basically you turn into Neo from the Matrix and just fill the air with photon lasers.
Oh God, okay.
So when you saw all the ricocheting lasers, that was the Gunner.
Oh, I didn't realize that was the Gunners. Okay.
Yeah, you basically just like start, firing laser bolts all over the place. They ricochet all over, and then you finish with like a flurry.
That's cool.
Yeah, so. The Gunners, I played all the classes. The Gunner I stuck with mostly just because I wanted to stick with it, and it was fun.
Right.
I'll probably still have Az be like a hunter or something like that
Yeah.
when she moves over, when the OG Az moves over anyway. And then the Gunner's movement was a lot of fun because, as somebody else described it online, you like John Woo around the battlefield. Like I'm literally doing like hands-free cartwheels and like ducking and bobbing and diving as I'm like firing these Uzis at an enemy and
Right
just
on.
bouncing around the battlefield doing it. And it was a lot of fun. But yeah, so each class has their own photon art, their own photon abilities, their own play style,
Yeah.
really. So like,
And they
you know,
all
you
play very unique from one another, which is nice. Because you've got some
yeah,
variety in how you want to play. There's a class for you.
yeah, and I think if I remember, you had kind of approached Fighter originally as going, I don't know, because
It was
it's such a difference between.
because see, I had in the OG game Ulrich I originally had set up as a fighter, mostly because there wasn't a weapon type that I liked, and I'm like, well, it makes sense. Ulrich's a big guy. I'll go with fighter. So I tried it out in New Genesis, and I just like first initial impressions, I wasn't feeling it. By the time the beta was done, like I had like a routine set up with the attacks that I had. I knew kick this one in, kick this one in, kick that one in. I had a set routine on how to fight, and I got really adept at attack canceling and dying.
And getting swatted out of the air.
Well, dude, okay, so they did put in one urgent quest, and like literally the first thing I would do, the enemy's weak point was a little bit up off the ground. So the first thing I would do was double jump, and then one of my attacks was to fist. Or I probably should phrase that is charge in with your fist. And the first thing every time that the urgent quest boss would do is go, oh, there's Ulrich, whack, right to the ground. Every time. I should learn, but I didn't. Um,
You dodged it once. I think
I did
the
very last
urgent
one.
quest that we did.
I attack
dodged
canceled
it.
and dodged right at the last second. I'm like, not today, not today.
Yeah.
So I got my one victory for Ulrich, and then I punched him in the toe.
Yes.
Yeah. But no, needless to say, by the time we were done, I really enjoyed Fighter. I like the way it played. I'm excited to see the expanded attacks and skill tree for that one. So yeah, I mean the combat is a lot of fun. Like you can definitely tell that this is not an almost 10-year-old game at this point. It feels new and fresh. So far, everything we covered about it, all high points. The only the only down point we've had so far is that skill tree. And personally, I'm chalking that up to it was the beta.
Yeah, and I wasn't really deriding the skill tree so much as just like I just didn't have there wasn't variety in your a single class attack. Now,
Right.
the thing we haven't covered is, and this is something you can do in OGPS2, is you can multi-class
Yeah.
or main class, subclass. So, in my case, I went Gunner Hunter.
Yep.
I think you went Hunter,
originally,
or Fighter Tector. Or...
Well, originally it was Fighter Tector until Shifta and Deband, which are your buff and debuff spells. You had to have a wand equipped, and I didn't. I don't remember why, but I ended up not having a wand, and I didn't get around to doing a multi-weapon, which is a new feature we'll talk about here in a bit. I ended up switching him over to, or no, I didn't use Shift to Band because since it was my subclass, you can only use that if it's your main class now, as opposed to base PSO2, where as long as you have levels in Tector and can cast that, you can do it. It is now a main class only ability, which personally, like I see why they did that to encourage people that want to play as Tector to stay as that or to make that a class, but I don't like it. I want that to be a generic. If you have levels, you can use it like the base game did. So I ended up switching to Fighter Hunter, just because I'm hoping in the base game that they have more options as far as like buffing up your defense, because fighters are very much glass cannons. They are, as of the beta anyway, they have the highest potential damage output. But they're glass cannons. They go in and you just hope you don't get hit.
Yeah. And like I said, it did get a little stale with like some of the combat stuff, especially for like those of us playing range classes, like, I'm further back of avoiding damage and things like that, and I'm kind of still John Wooing around the battlefield.
Yep.
But I've gotten maybe four buttons in my rotation, and
Yep.
that's about it.
Yeah.
So it did start to get a little stale. I'd try to throw in a couple of weird things here and there just to um, shake it up a little bit. But
Yeah.
anyway, overall though, I'm excited for the combat. I'm interested to see it, and I've got the PSO2 website pulled up, and so like the intro video is playing in the background,
Mm.
and and like you see some of the movements and things like that in combat, and I see this and I realize that during one of the scenes when they're fighting the big doll
Yeah.
on the bridge, the hunter with the sword, like everybody else hits it and runs by, he runs by and smacks it in the kneecap and it dies.
If
So
only.
I'm just like,
if
oh.
only.
It's like, oh, that's cute. But
Yeah.
the other thing though was with the beta was that obviously they wanted to limit like the amount of content that we got to experience. So
Yeah.
people were complaining about, oh, there's no partisans, there's no wired lances or anything like that. Pretty sure there are.
Yeah.
Like, because there were things in like the personal shops and
Mhm.
like the shops and stuff like that you could select these to search for them and buy them. They just weren't included in the beta.
Yep.
And if you actually watch the opening video cinematic, there's one of the characters is using twin daggers.
Yep.
Which are things which were not in the game.
Yep.
So there's still going to be more
Content.
versatility and more
Yeah.
weapons and content and stuff like that.
Yep.
But as we talk about weapons, one of the new things they do is allowing to multi-weapon.
Yep.
Which what that is basically you can combine two weapons into a single thing.
Yep.
It doesn't visually change the main, for the most part.
Yeah.
For the main weapon.
Yep.
It doesn't.
Yeah.
It doesn't really visually change it that much, but it does. It basically allows you to equip one weapon to have access to two, fighting types.
Yep. So instead of like base PSO, if you were, let's say you were a fighter tector as an example, you had your knuckles equipped into your slot 1 on your bar, you had your wand equipped to slot 2, and you could change to them. But there's that little bit of like animation where you see the photons and it changes weapons. You can still do that in New Genesis, but if, let's say, again, using that same example, you're a fighter tector, you can combine a pair of knuckles with a wand, and it's all in one hotbar, and like you can literally go from punching to immediately casting any of your tector abilities, and then right back to punching again with no animation for it. It's all one thing. The only visual thing it does change is while your weapon will always look like whatever the main thing on it is. When you use those secondary attacks, it does change to that, but then it reverts, as I knock over all my stuff, it reverts back to, again, your knuckles in this example. So it is kind of nice because it can give you even more versatility. I do hope that they expand that a little bit, because apart from being able, like, again, in this example, being able to throw out a few spells, you can't, even if that weapon is like wands are like the main tector weapon, I still could not use the main class only abilities because they are locked to being shifted a band again. I'm going to complain about that a lot. Is locked to being if tector is your main class, but all the classes do have that where it's abilities that can only be used by your main class.
Yep.
So I think that will limit, not necessarily limit, but that will impact players' choices on what main and subclass they pick. It's really going to be dependent on, for your subclass, what abilities are not class specific that would benefit your main class. So like, extra defense buffs, extra damage buffs, or things like that. So I'm curious, once the game launches and again we get those full skill trees, I may change my mind completely and not be fighter hunter. I may end up going with something else depending on how these extra abilities, because there were 6 class skills total that you could use, and most of them were locked to main class only abilities. So I am gonna be interested to see how that goes. But the multi-weapon thing is nice, because if you find a combo that works for you and you like some of the attacks from your secondary class, you can do that without the need of switching your hot bars or switching what weapon you have equipped. You can tie those two into one. Boom, you're good.
Yep. I did that with Az for because I had as weird as it is, I had twin machine guns and fused with a sword. So
makes sense. I mean, there's gun blades.
Yeah, there's gunblades, but I mean, it was they twin machine guns, and all of a sudden I pull a sword out of nowhere.
Well, that's kind of
Uh,
the opposite of the twin machine guns that I have in the base game, where when you're not equipping them, they look like a sword on your back, but then they turn into a gun.
True.
I still don't get that weapon design, but anyway, um, the
Yes.
as far as like kind of going off of the multi-weapon thing, augmenting. Augmenting is infinitely more simple in this game than it was in the base game. Like, a lot of my friends that I play with know this. I never really augmented in the base PSO because I didn't really understand the nuances of it. In New Genesis, you will just get, augment capsules. And the more of one capsule you use, the higher of a chance you get of attaching that augment to a weapon. And that's all there is to it. You just need some grinders and some money, and that's it.
Yep.
If you have 5 of a capsule and want to risk it, it will tell you have a, let's say, 50% chance on some of them. And you just click yes, and if it works, cool, you have that augment. That's all there is to it. It's super simple. I love it. I ended up, by the time the beta was done, I had literally my weapon and all of my units all were maxed out on what augments, as many augments they could have. And you could replace them at any time. So if you get like rank 2 of an augment and the benefits are much more beneficial to you, you can try to replace the slot 1 of it or the rank 1 of it if you want very easily.
Yep.
I loved it. I am going to be augmenting a lot more stuff because of the ease of use from the player perspective. It's very, very welcoming to people that maybe didn't understand augmenting.
Yeah.
So yeah, they've definitely streamlined that a lot.
Well, the other thing with that, and it ties into this, is that the combat, your battle prowess, really, there's a new stat, really. It's called BP. Battle points, battle prowess, whatever you want to call it.
Battle power, I think is what it was. Yeah.
Battle power, yeah, there we go.
Yep.
And that really kind of defines like where some of your base stats and things like that, like how well you can function. It's kind of like item power, if we want to talk about like a parallel with like World of Warcraft or Destiny. Your light levels.
Yep.
Yeah, your light levels and stuff like that. That's basically what it is. It kind of dictates what content you can get into because some of that, we didn't touch on this, but some content was actually gated by your BP.
Yep.
The urgent quests that we did, you had to have a minimum BP level in order to participate in the urgent quest.
Well, it was 950.
Yeah, 950.
Which wasn't hard to achieve. They ran a campaign during the closed beta where if you got to battle power 1050, when the game launches, you got, I think, some star gems. And like for me, I had a little bit of trouble getting to that, mostly because by that point, we had already done the urgent quest. We had already done all of the side missions. It was mainly just grinding stuff to get to that. But then I ended up enhancing my weapon, which is also very simplified compared to the original game. I enhanced my weapon 1 level and shot from like 900 something to over 1050. And that was the Ian and I's plan for that particular day. It was, all right, let's get me to 1050, then we'll start experiencing stuff again. I texted him before he logged on and went, so I'm 1050. What do we do? And we ended up just exploring mainly.
Yeah, I think we ran around collecting stuff. Like we found Kick-Ass Cave.
Kick-Ass Cave! I really hope that the spawn rate in that cave stays. One, I hope they explain the spawn rate of materials. But
yes.
2, I hope that location is still there and it's still a viable mining location.
Yes. We just explored. Like we just ran around and checked every nook and cranny and all this other stuff, and it was a lot of fun. Tim had mentioned this just a moment ago, but like resource gathering seems like it's relatively more simple. Like there's still resources, but if you look at the difference, at least so far that we saw, between the amount of resources. The amount of different resources that are in PSO2 versus New Genesis, like you can fill an entire bank in PSO2 with just different resources.
Just your fish you can fill up your entire storage with.
Yes. So they still have like things that you can collect from the ground, but it's not like massive amount, like overhaul, like you need this stuff.
Which
But the spawn rates were really weird. We couldn't
yeah.
figure them out.
Some people said, and you and I talked about this off the air. Some people said it's every 8 hours. Some people said it was every 24 hours. Some people said that items will always spawn in the same spot. Some people said they never spawn in the same spot. So nobody, as far as I could gather, really knows. But stuff appears, and that's kind of what you and I did on the last day. Was while we were exploring, we were also chest hunting. Any of the, well, they call them white chests, but they're green. They're green. They're green. I'm just going to say how it is. Those contain grinders. Red chests will always, as far, again, this is speaking strictly to the closed beta. Red chests contain Meseta, typically 5,000, but in Kick-Ass Cave, we found 3 of them literally right next to each other that all contain 10,000.
Yep.
Red chests do not respawn, again, in beta. And if you look at the world map and highlight an area and select its details, it will actually tell you, how many of the red chests you discovered, how many of the data logs you've discovered, things like that. So we were just kind of going around the world. The green chests green/white chests do respawn. The red chests do not, but we were just kind of going around collecting grinders and seeing if we could find any more red boxes. Red box, no movies, only Meseta.
Yes.
Just and while we were exploring, just finding those things, and leveling up our gear, that we could, just to kind of still get a better feel for the system on that, and red chest hunting, and like I could see just exploring being a thing that a lot of people do, for sure.
I mean, even if they don't reconfigure like the beta area at launch, I mean, you'll spend days, especially if you're an achievement hunter or like a completionist or something like that. You have to get all of the collectibles. Some of that stuff is not easy to find. Like it is well hidden. Like it's on the underledge of a mountain overhang that you have to get to by like climbing half of the mountain and then gliding down and then like zipping around a corner to get to it type thing.
One of the like you mentioned that, I specifically remember there's one of the red boxes that like I saw in the area. I can't remember what the area was called, or what area it was, but there's a lot of like waterfalls, and you know which area I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Where there's like a really high cliff, and I'm like, the top of that cliff, that's a perfect spot for a red box because it's out of the way and it's super like visually impactful. So I get up to the top of it and there's nothing up there, and I'm like, man, that seems like a perfect spot. Right beneath of it, and you can really only get to it from that top part by gliding down, not necessarily at the very tip, but even like part way up, you can glide down to a little area that's beneath of it. There's a red chest hidden behind a tree, nestled in between some bushes. And I happened to see it as I was making my way up, but I still wanted to check that top ledge. But the game definitely does lend itself to just exploring, seeing what there is. And you had kind of touched on other items you can pick up in the world. There's all kinds of like vegetables, fruit, things like that. You can pick up meat from... right.
Crabs.
Yeah, Ian got crabs from Phantasy Star.
Yep.
We need that on a shirt. I got crabs from Phantasy Star. But you can also get meat. There are 2 different kinds of creatures that you'll encounter in the world. There's your enemies, the dolls, but then there's also, I think they call them tames, where they're just your native fauna. Fauna's animals, right? Yeah, because flora is flower.
Yes.
Just the native fauna, and like they will behave differently than the enemies do. But if you attack them, take them down, you get meat. All those food items you can take and actually prepare meals from, and depending on like what meats, what veggies, what fruit, or whatever combination you put them in, and how many, actually gives you temporary boost to stats. So I know there was the cafe in PSO2. This just seems a lot more user friendly, and it seems like everything that they took from the base game to this, that seems to be my running thought on it, is it's a lot more user friendly.
PSO2, New Genesis, we're more user-friendly.
I mean, it really is. That's kind of my big takeaway, is it's a lot more inviting not only to new players, but to returning players. It makes it so that you're not bogged down with overly complicated mechanics on things. It's simplified, but still very robust.
Yep.
So.
Yep. And speaking of like world collectibles, one of the things that we didn't touch on was the healing items. There's no,
Yeah.
as far as we can tell, there is no healing spells anymore.
Yep.
Like there's no Resta, there's no anti or stuff like that.
Yep. No
Um,
monomates, dimates, trimates, none of that.
right. All of that stuff you can actually collect in the
Hmm.
world. Like
Yep.
it's literally like these little tokens
Yep.
or idols or whatever that are out there, and there's only two of them.
Yep.
There's only two kinds, as far as we can tell, anyway.
Yep.
There's the Restite, I think is what they call it.
It's something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. There's like Restite, and then there's the Resurrection one, which I can't remember what it's called either.
Yeah. Neither can I.
But and you can carry a limited amount of them, but yeah, you can like that was one of the really fun things was like if you get into an extended fight,
Mhm.
like and you're getting your butt kicked, like you can literally just run around like the battlefield and
Yep.
stock back up on these items, and they don't like instantly respawn or
Yeah.
anything like that. So they'll once you clear out an area, it takes a while before they will
Yeah.
respawn in that area.
Yep.
So you do have to kind of measure what it is that you're doing and how many of these things that you're using. But I thought that was a really cool idea, and again,
Yeah.
it also reduces kind of the clutter. From a programming perspective, it reduces the amount of assets that you need
Hmm.
because you don't need to have any visual indicators for these different things. You don't need to have like different program mechanics or things like that because it seemed like they scaled with
Yep.
your battle power, with your level.
Yeah.
So it made it much easier to. It makes it programmatically makes it much easier to manage that thing because you literally just put a modifier on this thing that says based upon your.
What I think it was.
X% of,
Yeah, I think it was percentage based. Like it restores X percentage of your total HP, and then the resurrection ones like it revives another player. It's simple.
Yeah.
And I think that there are some of the classes like Tector. Some of the abilities from that specifically did allow you to recover more HP, but I think again that was another class-based one, which is another reason.
Well, I know
yeah.
that Force. I think both Force and Tector had a class ability that basically AOE's your heals.
Yeah, I remember seeing that.
So
as
when
well.
you toss, I mean, normally when you toss one of those healing items, it just heals you. If
Yep.
you're one of these other classes and you toss one, it actually does an AOE and will heal everyone around you.
Which I'm wondering for those classes specifically, I'm wondering if that's going to be their heal other spell ability, which I mean would be a unique way to do it, in the sense that you have only without picking up more of these items, you only have a limited number of time you can do it. So it's that strategy of, I'm in a party, three of my party members are almost dead, but only two of them are near me. Do I risk it and try to corral everybody or get close enough to them, or do I just pop it now and get the best of what I've got? So I mean, I think it'll add another element of strategy to the game, which I'm all for.
Yeah, it kind of promotes some synergy because I think that's one of the things with like the OG PSO2 right now is like you get into some of these urgent quests or raids and stuff like that, and it's just literally just people smacking stuff and then kind of doing their own thing.
Yeah.
I mean,
if you get a good party, it really does flow well. But like for the most part, it seems like if you just hop in base game, if you hop into a random urgent quest, it's a grab bag. In New Genesis, it seems like the classes complement each other a lot more. They seem very well interbalanced, which is nice, in my humble opinion, anyway.
Yeah, no, I would concur with that. So yeah, there's going to be some balancing things that are there. I think it'll make some of these more underappreciated classes more appreciated.
Yeah.
Like playstyle, because realistically, like in OG PSO2, the playstyle between Tector and Force to me, there's not really much of a difference other than just some of the abilities. Like, you get like shift into band if you play as a Tector or something like that. Like that's really like it. But in PSO2, like a Tector's a melee fighter.
Yeah.
They're melee. Yeah, like they call it a wand, but in reality, it's a mace.
Yeah, it's a mace.
Like it's a club.
Right,
and
they're more akin to, for our Dungeons and Dragons fans, they're more akin to like a battle cleric almost, where they're gonna go up and whack stuff while they're throwing heals at people and buffing their party.
Yeah, and they have access to to like techniques and stuff like that, but it's they're very much a in your face combat style.
Yeah, which I thought was a really, like because I did with the first character I made in the beta, I did for a little bit switch that to my main class, and I actually kind of liked it. And I usually don't play Tectors, but it's something that I might toss around the idea of.
Yeah, and then obviously with the Force is much more of a caster type. Like you're, like even the movement of the Force represents, because you don't actually run or anything like that. You float.
Right.
Like your character floats. So they definitely geared that class to be more towards a caster type.
Right.
Like even
standing back and throwing magic. Yep.
Right. Yeah. Like even their their weapon is a wand, or not a wand, a rod.
Rod.
I
Yep.
believe.
Yep.
And it's base attack. Like most weapons have a base attack. You swing a sword, you punch with the knuckles, you shoot with the gun. Shoot with the guns. With the rod, like you're throwing like lightning, like magic missiles.
Lightning bolt, lightning bolt, lightning bolt.
Right, you're throwing magic missiles at your enemies. So meanwhile with the Tector, you have a flail and you're beating people with it.
Feel my magic, whack.
Right. So yeah, I think there's going to be some variety there. But so one of the things that we haven't covered yet was talking about, like, we talked about combat, like our side of the combat, but we didn't really talk about like the enemies or things like that.
Yep. The
dolls seem like they're going to be an interesting enemy.
They've got some variety to them.
Yeah, they've got some variety to them. They have different designs. They have, they're versatile right now.
Right.
There's like we said, many different designs. There's your bipedal ones. There's the one that looks like the floating, Cthulhu demon thing.
See, I thought it looked like some kind of weird, like, onion monster.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I guess I thought onion monster when I saw that thing.
Then you've got the giant robo dog.
Robo puppy.
Robo puppy. The thing with the beta that, I don't know, maybe it was the first day that we played or something like that, but you run into these like mini bosses or whatever in the world, and it just took forever.
Even with a lot of players. Yeah. Well, and I'm wondering if that's just because it was the first day of the beta. Everybody was still learning stuff. Nobody was really super high level. Nobody had really done much augmenting yet. Because I do notice that by the time the beta was over on that Sunday, it was a lot easier to take that stuff down. So I'm wondering if it's because we were stronger, we knew the mechanics better, we knew how to read the enemies better. So,
but
I don't know. Could be either way.
Yeah, and I think it's some of A, some of B. I think they still need to do some balance tweaks.
Right.
Based upon the beta, but like the first day where we ran into that one, the big dude with the sword with the chest laser.
Yep.
Like
that
we
took
fought him
a while.
Like we were fighting for 15 minutes, I think.
Oh, easily 15.
And one of the other guys posted in chat, like while we were fighting him, like, I've been here 20 minutes.
Oh my god.
Fighting this guy. So
and that was only a couple minutes into our fighting him too.
Yeah, so in total it probably took a group of us half an hour to take this thing down.
Yeah.
And it was just brutally long.
Yeah.
Like that was one of the things that like made me really kind of pause that first day, but I'm going to continue on and just kind of check things out and see how it goes.
Right.
And again, as Tim said, by the end of it, we were able to kind of read enemy movements and kind of understand, how many different times did we kill Majin Bujin?
We kept joking. If you're familiar with the Rick and Morty meme of the butter robot, what is my purpose? You bring me butter. Bujin's whole purpose was to get smacked down repeatedly for all of eternity. Because literally it's a doll enemy that would spawn, and like when we first started, he was a challenge. By the time it was done, you would literally just see him spawn. Players would, swarm him like piranhas on a cow in a river. You'd see a bunch of cool particle effects, and then Bujin was gone. He was just gone.
Yep.
So we lovingly dubbed him Majin Bujin.
Yes.
But yeah, he exploded very quickly on that third day.
Yeah, and there are some enemy variants that we would run into. So they have like gold and silver versions of the enemies. Like I ran into like if you watch the trailer or the opening cinematics of the game, like there's which is actually playing right now, there is a big cyber dog thing that
Yep.
chases the main hunter around. And we ran into that thing a lot.
Yeah. Well, I think
Like
it was the area we were mainly exploring in towards the end was where this thing primarily spawns.
yeah, but it's one of those like powerful world mini boss type
Hmm.
things where, it takes a while to kill him.
Yep.
And yeah, so that thing would spawn frequently, and we would. I mean, I lost track of how many times we killed that thing,
A
but
lot.
it
A
had
lot.
it had different variants, and the color variations, dictate, level of difficulty on it too. So
Yep.
you could randomly get like a gold-plated one, in which case that thing was mean.
Yes.
Um,
And it's not
and
afraid to
it's
yeet itself off cliffs either. But it's also not
yes,
afraid to jump back up said cliff and own you.
yes, yes.
As we
So
found out.
yeah. So there's different enemy types, and there's going to be more because if you even watch the opening cinematics, there's a couple of enemy types that we didn't run into.
Yep.
Like there's a doll that wields a battle axe.
Yep.
We never ran into one of those, at least not that I ever remember.
Not yeah, same.
But I'm interested to see what other kind of varied enemies there are, because we also they only allowed us to stick to the one biome, which was kind of like the forest, the starting area.
Yep.
But as Tim talked about early on in this, there was the broken down facility that people are really interested in. There
Yep.
was there's the mountains with the snow and whatnot.
I want to go there. I want to check that place out.
I want to as well. I also want to go to the other place and find out why that mountain is on fire.
Right, yeah, exactly.
Because there is a like a volcano biome. It's a volcano, but like the effects make it look like the mountain is on fire.
Yep.
You could probably see it in some of the screenshots.
Probably.
As you watch
Actually,
through,
as you say that, a picture popped up and you can see it in the background right now.
Yep. Well, there you go.
Yeah, good timing.
Yeah, good timing. Especially considering I'm not watching that feed, so
Right.
I just kind of
Winging it.
happened to work out. Yep. So, yeah, but all in all, New Genesis has wound up being. I'm excited.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, it is a very pretty game. It completely redefines Phantasy Star.
Yeah. Yes, it does.
And I think they draw a lot from the different games within Phantasy Star, because I think some of the movement mechanics and weapon combat you could probably trace all the way back to like Phantasy Star Universe on the 360. Did you ever play that game?
I played it briefly, but the time when I played it, I didn't have internet where I was living, so I never got to play that online. So I got to play the offline story mode. And I didn't play it that much, mainly because I didn't in the story mode. You don't get to make your own character. You play as a character, Ethan, and
Yeah.
I just couldn't get into his story, so I didn't play it as much as I did OG PSO back on the Dreamcast. I still will boot that up every so often just to play it. Let alone as many hours as I've gotten PSO 2. So.
Right. So, yeah, I mean, I'm excited.
Oh yeah.
We'll go with excited.
Excited, yes. We are very we are not whelmed with this one. We are excited about this one.
Yes. So release day cannot come fast enough. It's again free.
Yeah.
So
Now it's something you had kind of touched on earlier. It is free to play. They do have some premium options, which are options. I know in base PSO2, if you pay for premium, you get better access to your personal quarters, like as far as making it bigger. You get access to the player shop. You get, currently anyway, you get access to the gold tier of the mission pass, which gives you more stuff. They are going away with the mission pass, but because they're taking that out, they are lowering the total cost of premium. To my knowledge, and I'm sure somebody will comment and tell me I'm wrong, you are still going to be able to get premium in New Genesis. It is It is going to be cheaper, obviously, since they're getting rid of the mission pass. You still get access to the player shops. They haven't confirmed housing or anything yet, but a lot of people are already expecting them to, because there's stuff that people found in the beta that heavily implies that there will be a new form of player housing. But they haven't specifically said what all kind of things you get for premium in New Genesis. But again, we're not too far from launch, so I imagine they'll give more info on that soon. So, but you can play the game. I mean, you for the longest time didn't pay for premium on PSO. It wasn't until I said, "Hey, I've got some cosmetics for your character. I'm just going to give them to you," that you finally got premium. Just so we could player trading is something you have to. Both parties had to have premium for.
Yeah, and which neither here nor there. It was whatever, worth it.
Yeah, I mean, but you can still
very minimal investment for me to enjoy the game.
Exactly.
So,
yep.
And there's some of the things in like base PSO2, like you mentioned player housing. Like you can get housing passes for in-game currency.
You can.
You don't have to have premium to get the in-game housing passes.
Yep, because you can get them off of even the fun scratches, and it gives you like 3 days worth. But you can use multiple of those, and I think it's either 60 or 90 days total. You can just bank up at a time before it won't let you use anymore. For a while I didn't have premium, because for a bit there I wasn't playing PSO2 as regularly as I was. So I didn't have premium, but I still had access to my full decked out house, because I had so many of those housing pass tickets banked up that it didn't really matter for me. But then when I started doing more on the wanting to do more on the player shops and wanting to trade person to person, I'm like, you know what? I'm playing almost every day. For me, it was worth it to pay premium, not only to get those features, but also to show Sega, hey, you should have brought this game over earlier. You could have made a lot more money off of people like me.
Right, exactly.
Yep.
So I think, to me, if anybody's coming into this having not played any of the games yet, I don't know that I can accurately tell you my thoughts on, my opinion on what you should do.
Yeah.
If you've never played the games before, I kind of want to advise people just to wait until until New Genesis comes out and just start with that.
Yeah.
It's a good, fresh experience, and you won't have any technical baggage, I guess, from playing OG.
Right.
At the same time, though, they've simplified the mechanics enough that you could easily go from OG PSO2 to New Genesis and not have any problems. Tim and I did, and we were up and running, literally running within seconds.
Hell, we miss running.
Yes. So for me, I don't know. I'd say kind of leave it up to yourselves, like based upon what you've heard us say. If you want to log into OG PSO2, go for it. Go for it. Come and check us out. Tim and I play on ship 1. We're usually on deck 9.
Yep.
Floor B9 with the rest of our alliance. Look for Azriel and Ulrich. They're usually doing stupid stuff together.
It's true. We usually are.
Right. Well, mostly it's like a Rocket and Groot type scenario where
it really is.
Ulrich is the giant tree that just throws things, and I'm just standing there going, oh. Yes.
While shooting things. I mean, we really do have a Rocket and Groot dynamic.
Yes, we do. But they're both really fun games, so maybe check them both out.
Yeah. Well, especially, I mean, if you have it on, you can get it on Steam, you can get it on the Epic Game Store, you can get it through the Microsoft Store. If you have any Xbox One or newer, you can get it. It's completely free on Xbox as well, and you no longer need Xbox Live to play that online on your Xbox consoles. It is a free-to-play game. You do not need to pay Xbox Live to play it. So if you've only have an Xbox and you've been holding off on it, get it. If you don't have Live, you can still play it. My kids still log on every so often and run around with their characters. My daughter likes playing dress-up on Phantasy Star. They don't have Xbox Live. They can still play no problem. Yep. And it is cross-play. So if you have it on PC, you can play with your Xbox friends and vice versa.
Yeah, which is definitely very nice. It's one of the few cross-play games that are out there, and it's fantastic. So
Yeah.
hats off to Sega and Microsoft for putting those kind of things together.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah. And it is nice, like, if Ian and I are, finishing up a recording session, lately it's been we record and then we hop on Phantasy Star. But if I'm, not in my office, I'm sitting in front of the TV, I can boot up my Xbox, play my same character right there. I've got my wireless keyboard for my Xbox. I can play there. If I feel like coming down to my computer, getting a little bit more, in depth, I can do it that way too. It's really, really nice. Really, they give you a lot of options on how to play.
Yep.
And I should probably preface this: we were not sponsored by Sega to endorse the beta or endorse Phantasy Star at all. We weren't sponsored by Microsoft. Weren't sponsored at all. We just legitimately are really excited about this new game. We really like the base game. I am glad that we didn't have to wait another 8 years for the next Phantasy Star.
At that point, it's probably going to be Phantasy Star Full Dive or something like
right.
that. Harkening back to Sword Art Online or something like that.
Which
Which is funny because they are running a collaboration event right now with
Yep.
Sword Art Online.
Yep.
So anyway.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So
Which that's something that they haven't touched much on things like that. They did say there are going to be scratch tickets for cosmetics and stuff, a la the base game. I do hope we get some more collab events because they have done some of the series I've known, like the Sword Art Online event they're doing right now. I know that series. I've watched it. I've enjoyed it. Some of the other things they've done collabs with, I'm not as familiar with, but it's still cool that they have those because there's a lot of people that hey, they're doing a collab with insert random obscure anime here. Oh, cool, they're doing that. Awesome, I'm happy for you. I have no knowledge of it, but I like the outfits you can get for it.
I mean, look at one of the ones they're doing, like the Sega Throwback right now has the Yakuza.
Yep.
The Yakuza stuff in it.
Yep.
I gifted Tim a pimp suit.
Yep.
So
Ichiban from Yakuza Like a Dragon. I have, which on a guy as beefy as Ulrich, it looks good.
Yeah,
it does look good. I walked around with Ichiban's perm for a while too.
Yeah, I mean, there's other collab events too. Like one of the people in our alliance is Nezuko from Demon Slayer.
Literally, yeah.
Literally, that's her character's name. That is, she is 100% modeled after that character.
Right.
Yeah. And there's another one that I've seen running around that looks like Ruby Rose from the Rooster Teeth Ruby series.
Yep. Well, I mean, heck, they did it. I mean, it's Sega, but they did a Sonic the Hedgehog collab back, earlier in the base game. You could get Sonic costumes, Dr. Robotnik masks, Amy, like little hairpin things. You could get models of Sonic, Tails, Knuckles, and Amy, I think it was, statuettes you could put in your personal house. So I mean, they really do a lot. Especially other Sega properties, they will, because it's a Sega game, Phantasy Star, so they already have the rights to those things. They'll import those assets, put them in Phantasy Star. Bada boom, you've got a guy running around dressed as Sonic. So I really hope we do see more collabs and stuff like that in New Genesis. I don't see why they wouldn't, because those things always make them bank.
Yeah, and I'm sure there's probably some profit sharing and licensing and things like that
probably.
with the other companies,
Right.
Other companies, other publishers, and things like that. Because there's definitely stuff that I've seen in the OG game that, you are not associated with Sega in any way, shape, or form. Point of fact, you're probably a competitor, but you guys wanted money.
Right.
So.
Well, I mean, heck, you and I talked about it before we recorded tonight. In Japan, they got an Evangelion collab, which I'm still really hoping that we get that in the base game, right before New Genesis launches, because I wanted Ava for my room. Damn it! I also want to run around in the plug suit, just for funs, because sometimes when you are a man, you wear stretchy pants.
Well, yeah, but if you also look at Ulrich's screenshots from New Genesis, you look like you're in a plug suit.
I do, yeah, I kind of do. Which, I know it was the beta. They didn't give us as many options as what I wished for character creation, but I don't think that character creation was the focus of their beta. But like, if you look at my screenshots, I'm pretty sure every other screenshot of Ulrich, I'm wearing a different outfit because I just kept changing it because I wasn't happy with the way his outfit looked.
Yeah,
You changed like
Tim
twice.
Yeah, Tim would disappear on me sometimes. Like I'd see his, like there. I think it was a beta glitch or something like that. Because when one of your party members left the zone, like a pop up would be like, "Oh, you are now the sub leader because somebody has left the zone."
Yep.
Which it got really irritating by the end of it.
Well, yes, especially like I mean, if we're gonna talk complaints, like when you and I were exploring that last day, there was that one mountain cliff that we were exploring where to get up it, you had to jump into the other zone to get to a thing to jump back into that first zone. So it would keep making your party member pop in and out of the party. I wish on the mini map your party members' icons, if they were off screen, that it would give you like an indicator that they're over there. Yeah. Even if they're in another zone, I do think that needs a little bit of work because it wasn't. I mean, there were a lot of times when you and I were exploring where I would have no idea where you were because you just happened to step a foot into another zone and you didn't exist anymore. Like it would say like your character's nameplates if you were in a party or at the bottom of the screen. It would say, you know, you're in like north wherever, I can't remember the name of it. You were in north wherever and I was in east same area. And we were literally 20 feet from each other, but because there was a wall, we didn't exist to each other anymore. Because they do, while it is an open world, it's they're different zones, if you will, but it's still an open world. So, I don't even remember what we were talking about when we got onto that. Oh, yeah, when somebody would go to the salon, it would show, yeah, that's what you were saying.
Yeah, so, like, Tim would pop out of existence. I'd be sitting there, like, you know, augmenting my gear or something like that, and I'd turn around, like, where the hell's Tim?
And keep in mind that the salon is, like, across, like, the street, not directly, but kind of catty corner from each other across the street in the main strip of Central City. So it's not like we were, what, 50 feat away? If that?
Yeah, if that. Yep.
And I would just disappear because I was changing pants.
Yes, and that happened basically every time we went back to town.
I would change something.
Yes, Tim would disappear into the salon, and then I would have no idea what was going on. He would phase out of existence, and then I'm just like, wait, damn it.
He's at the salon again.
Yeah, I just stopped, like, trying to...
You did.
Yeah, but yeah. Anyway. So, I think we're probably right about at time on this now.
Oh, yeah.
Originally we were thinking, you know, as we're playing this, like, we're not going to be able to talk about the beta for an entire episode. We'll talk about OGPSO2 as well, which we did. But
not as in depth as what we wanted to. So I mean, we covered a lot more of the beta than what I thought we would.
Obviously, we really loved that beta because we had a lot to talk about there. So, I think in closing, PSO2 New Genesis beta was fantastic. It has me really excited for the new game, or the game at launch, which will be very soon. Not soon enough.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think with that, you know, we'll go ahead and wrap up for this session, folks. We thank you for tuning in and listening to us, watching us, whatever your method of media consumption is. We appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, find us on Anchor.fm and all of your favorite podcast platforms, Spotify, Google, Apple, bunch of others. You can also find our video podcasts on YouTube.
Yep.
And catch us on Twitter at NonSequiturNerd. You can find us on Facebook as well. We have a Facebook page and our website, www.nonsequiturnerds.com, which probably needs to be updated because I've not done it recently.
I don't think I have either.
So it is a little out of date, and we apologize for that. Eventually, maybe if people want to actually start sponsoring and shilling out money to us, we will hire an actual webmaster.
Maybe.
Instead of two people that are overworked.
Yeah.
But we are happy to take time out to talk to you guys.
Absolutely. Yep.
Really talk to each other, because that's what we like to do.
Oh, yeah.
So, I think that'll probably do it for tonight, folks. So, anything else, buddy?
It needs to be, like, June whatever right now. I mean, like, I'm sitting here this entire time. I keep glancing over the screenshots going, I want to go back.
It's Tim even sent me this like a day after the closed beta. It's the sad Wolverine meme.
Yep.
touching the pic. You know, he's supposed to be touching the picture of Jean Grey, but it's just a picture of New Genesis. It's just the sad.
Well, I, like the day afterwards, you sent me a random text, and like when I have my headphones in at work, it will read text to me, and all I got was a text from Ian that said, you know, I woke up this morning, I felt really down, I felt like a part of me was missing, and then it just says Ian sent an image, and I'm like, oh God, what's wrong with Ian? Is he okay? And like, I work in a factory, I can't really check my phone, so all morning I'm like, oh my God, I hope he's okay. I wonder what's wrong, and then I get I look at the picture, and it's that meme of Pablo Escobar staring longingly out into things, and it says thinking about New Genesis. So, needless to say, it's been on our minds a lot. But yeah,
it's the first time I'd heard that part of the story. So
yeah, see, I hadn't talked to you about that. I thought something was wrong, like you were depressed about something. I'm like, man, I feel
yes,
bad.
I was.
New Genesis.
I was depressed because I couldn't play New Genesis.
Anyway. But no, we're definitely looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to getting to see more expanded versions of the classes. I'm excited to see what social events they're going to have, what scratchies they're going to have at launch. It's a new world, a new Genesis in Phantasy Star, and I'm glad to be part of it.
Yep.
But
all right, folks.
Yep.
We'll go ahead and sign off for tonight. We appreciate you listening. Thank you. We look forward to seeing you again next time.
Yep.
And again, check us out online. Just search for us.
Yeah.
Or rewind the podcast, and you can get all the information.
There you go.
Because I'm not saying it again.
And like Ian
right.
said, if you play Phantasy Star, the base game, you can find us on Ship 1, Block 9, usually.
Yep.
Anyway, folks, you all have a great night. Thanks for joining us.
Have a good one, folks.